himself, but for others. Everything that God blesses is for others in Scripture, never for himself. So God blessed the seventh-day Sabbath. He infused the day with life, health, and prosperity, because anytime you find the word blessing in Scripture, it has to do with life, with abundance, with prosperity, with which is good. Did God have to make a day holy for himself? He says, oh, I'm going to make a holy day for myself. Listen, for God, all days are holy, because everything connected with God is holy. And so God didn't have to set apart a day, a holy day for himself. Did God really need to rest, in fact? The fact is that we're going to notice in a few moments that God did not have to rest. Jesus did not have to rest. I mean, how much rest do you need after saying, let there be light? Let there be the firmament. Let there be dry land. Let there be trees and plants and grass. Let there be the sun, the moon, and the stars. Let there be fish. Let there be birds. Let there be land animals. You know, God at the end of creation week, he says, wow, I've really worked. I need a vacation. Is God resting because he's tired? Is Jesus resting because he's tired? Absolutely not. Then the question is, why is he resting? We'll get to that in a moment. But before that, allow me to mention one other thing which is extremely important. Do you know that the story of creation says that Jesus actually finished his work twice? Now you say, how can you finish your work twice? Well, let's notice Genesis chapter 1, verse 31. There's a very interesting nuance here. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 31, and we'll continue reading through chapter 2. Genesis 1, verse 31, and we'll go on to read chapter 2. It says there, then God, that is Jesus, saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished. When did he finish? It says it was the evening and the morning of the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished. He finished the sixth day, according to this verse. But then you read the next verse, it appears to have a contradiction. It says in verse 2, and on the seventh day God ended his work which he had done. Now wait a minute. Did he finish on the sixth, or did he end on the seventh? Maybe Moses forgot what he wrote in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 31. And he says, oh, excuse me, it wasn't the sixth day that he finished, it was the seventh day that he finished. Actually, there's something else that's going on here, and let me explain it. I had the privilege of working for 4.5 years in New Mexico. All of New Mexico was my territory, in West Texas. I lived in Amarillo, Texas. And one of the places which I really enjoyed visiting was Taos, New Mexico. Any of you ever been to Taos, New Mexico? Beautiful country up there. You know, that's God's country. Wonderful. Especially in the winter, it gets beautiful because of all of the mountains. But anyway, something which Taos has, which I'm sure other places have, but it impacted me, is a huge number of art galleries. They have so many artists. Many of them are Native Americans. And you know, you can go to their shop and you can see them actually painting works of art. And I had the privilege, while I was there, I had a series of meetings for 3 weeks one time. In fact, it was on Genesis. This is many years ago. And I used to enjoy going to the art galleries and watch the artists work. And you know what they would do? What they would do is they would first of all take a frame, a wooden frame, and then they would staple a piece of, what do you call it? Canvas, a piece of canvas over the frame. They would make sure that it was nice and tight. They would place it on the easel. And then they would sit down, I'm dramatizing for effect, they would sit down and they would put some colors on the canvas, and after they finished the first day of work, they would look at the canvas and say, it looks good. And then the second day they would come and they would add a few colors there, they would perhaps add a few clouds in the sky, and then after a day's work they would look and they would say, looks good. Then they would come the third day and they would add some hills and they would add some mountains and some trees and some plants and some flowers. And at the end of the third day they would look and they would say, looks good. Then the fourth day they would sit down and they would probably, paint a sun in the sky, and they would add a few more colors to the canvas, and at the end of the fourth day, they'd look at their work, they say, looks good. And the fifth day, they would have jumping out of a lake, some fish, and they would color some birds flying through the air, and at the end of the fifth day, they would look and they would say, looks real good. And then the sixth day, they would sit down and they would add some giraffes and some elephants and different kinds of animals on the canvas, and then they would paint a woman and a man, perhaps they're enjoying the beautiful scenery, and then they would add the final touches to the canvas and look and say, it is very good. Now let me ask you, was the work of art finished? I said they finished. I said he finished. Is the work of art finished? Yes and no. The work itself is finished, but what is lacking? The signature of the author of the work of art. Without identifying who made it, anybody can come along and claim it. But the fact is that the picture was finished, the work of art was finished, but then the artist would take the what do you call it? Brush. See, I'm not an artist. He would take the brush and he would sign his name to the work of art. And then the work was finished. If we apply this to creation, now we understand how Jesus finished his work twice. The sixth day, he finished a work of art. And by the way, this work of art was not a static that when you look at it, it's always the same. This was a living picture. It was a picture that changed at every instant, at every moment. He made this beautiful world, this beautiful work of art. But Jesus knew that it was necessary to identify who was the one who made this work of art. And that's the reason why he created the Sabbath. The Sabbath identifies the Creator. The Sabbath is the signature of Jesus upon his work of creation. It tells us who made all of these things. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Now, I mentioned that God wasn't tired. Jesus wasn't tired when he finished creation week. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 28. Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 28. Here we find an interesting declaration about creation and about the Creator. I want you to notice this interesting statement of the prophet Isaiah. It says here, have you not known, have you not heard, the everlasting God, the Lord, the Creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor is weary, his understanding is unsearchable. Does the Creator get weary? According to this verse, was Jesus tired at the end of creation week? Absolutely not. By the way, was man tired? I don't know whether you've stopped to think about this. Man was created on the second half of the first day. So his first day on earth, first full day on earth, was a day of what? Was a day of rest. Now this is strange. God rests and he's not tired. And man hadn't worked, and so he rests and he's not tired either. Why would you have God and man resting on the Sabbath if neither one of them are tired? There must be a deeper purpose to the observance of the Sabbath than physical rest. Are you understanding what I'm saying? There's a deeper dimension to the Sabbath than physical rest. Because Adam wasn't tired, Eve wasn't tired, God wasn't tired either. And by the way, have you ever noticed in the creation story that Adam and Eve did none of the work? How much work of creation did Adam and Eve perform? Nothing. And so when the seventh day comes around, God says